was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. That's an interesting song. We learned it in Sunday school as little kids. However, our account today doesn't talk about Zacchaeus. It talks about a man, another name with a Z name, Zacharias. In Luke chapter 1, we hear the story of Zacharias and Elizabeth. And one of the things that just fascinates me about John the Baptist's parents, specifically what fascinates me, is just the simple fact that Zacharias was serving, he was active, he was fulfilling his role in ministry and in the church and doing all the things he was supposed to do. And whenever God gave him something that was going to test his faith, notice Zacharias' response. It was a, how can this happen? I don't understand this, Lord. I don't see how that this can take place. And then you turn around and you see his wife, who immediately, whenever she is confronted with what goes on, she praises the Lord. And then we're given Mary, and Mary asks a question, but Mary's question wasn't the same as Zacharias'. Zacharias' question was, God, how is this going to work out? How are you going to do all the details? Mary's was a, wow, how can this be? I don't know, man, explain this, please. How can this be? And you see the huge difference. And it took 9 months for Zacharias to come around to change his way of thinking. So that whenever we find Zacharias at the birth of his son, I love what happens. It's kind of comical in my opinion. They said, we're going to name him John. And they said, no, we're not going to name him John. And all of his friends said, no, nobody in your family is named John. You can't name him John. Zacharias, what do you think? And he calls for a tablet. And I love what he puts. John writes on a tablet, his name is John. And that's the way I read that, is his name is John. We're not arguing with this. That's his name. And immediately he begins to open his mouth and bless the Lord. As you read through Luke chapter 2 today, what I want to challenge you to do, Luke chapter 1 today, what I want to challenge you to do as you read through Luke chapter 1 is to see the difference on how they responded in faith. To see the difference of Mary and of Zacharias and of Elizabeth and their response and their joy and their response to the working of God in their life. So often I think God wants to do a work in our life, but we hinder that working. And as we look at this, look at these different people, and the question I want to ask for us to think about, and the question for this evening, is going to be this. It's going to be, who are we more like in our faith? Do we respond more often than not like Zacharias, or do we respond like Mary? Do we respond like Zacharias and saying, okay, God, I'll follow you, I'll do your will, but you got to lay everything out for me and give me all the details? Or do we follow like Elizabeth? Do we follow like Mary? Who said, wow, I don't understand this. Explain this to me, and even if I don't completely understand it after that, I'm still going to follow and trust. Let's choose to trust God and to follow Him in the way that's the simplest, with faith. Let's choose to have faith and not have to learn lessons the hard way like Zacharias did. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Zoom this evening at 7 o'clock. Lord bless you. We'll look forward to seeing you then.